A very special guest on OT with BP. We're going overtime with John Chapman of 49ers Rush podcast, and always love chatting with you, John. We're going to do dueling mock drafts. Is it better for the 49ers to start with O-line, start with D-line, maybe otherwise? I think I know where I would start for the San Francisco 49ers. Let's find out where John wants to start. Dueling mock drafts. Which way do they go? Right now. What do you think about the new theme music?
Oh, I was nostalgia, NXS, Stranger Things. Yeah, that's my wheelhouse, man.
Inspired. I was like, yeah, that's kind of my speed. I like that. All right. How you doing, man? Are you mock drafted out yet? It's only early March right now. Free agency hasn't even started.
I know we're not used to this time frame because we're usually like rushed, like we're at the combine. We don't even know these guys, but man, we've been mock drafting now for a couple months. Not mock draft out, sadly, because thankfully there's so many prospects to fall in love with. I do like this draft a lot. I don't think it's great to be. It's not the best draft to be picking 11, if I'm going to be very honest. But the amount of third round picks I love. And so the deeper you go into the draft, the more and more I like it, which got to give a shout out to you, man. You were by far one of the OGs, the shadow drafts back in the day. I used to argue as I listened to your show. It'd be like, no. And then, of course, we didn't pick those guys, and that's what it is. But no, this is going to be a lot of fun. Glad to be on.
Yeah, and you recently did both a top 30, which I kind of roasted you a little bit, talking about how there's too many Texas guys on there, too high. But that's okay. That's okay. Hook 'em horns, right? And then you talked about recently the gold helmet guys too, right? And I think it's got to be something that is taken into account. And probably a lot of reasons why you get surprised is that personalities are pretty important for the 49ers. And you're like, man, this guy really, that's a round too high. That's a half a round too high, but they believe in the human being. And that has to be an element too. And if you're doing a mock draft that's predictive for the San Francisco 49ers, I think that's something you have to take into account. So some of these players that maybe have some character concerns, maybe they should be off the board for us when we're doing mock drafts for the 49ers.
I've said many times, I think the 49ers draft board, all 32 teams have different draft boards. I think the 49ers would be the most unique, the most like against the grain or common think or whatever else. They literally just toss players off their board. And yeah, it's not a fit for us. Not a fit for us. Now, sometimes they throw curveballs and, Aaron Banks, what was that about? But I think that they just really want guys. They're tired of missing. Everybody talks about Shanahan being, just too stubborn, which in a lot of areas he is. But Reuben Foster changed the way this team drafted. Trey Lance changed the way this team drafted. Javon Kinlaw changed the way that this team drafts and evaluates prospects. And so they burned me once, shame on you twice. Forget how it goes. But yeah.
Thanks,
That's kind of where it is. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, I'm from Texas. I can't help it.
That's true. Yeah. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Right? That's how it goes. Yeah. Won't get fooled again, as George W. Right. So yeah, and look, everybody else is talking about the Mike Silver article and the reset and all that stuff. Well, look, if you're going to reset, what do? You got to draft well. So let's talk NFL draft because that's key in all of this, no matter what happens for the 49ers this offseason. Would you like to do the honors as the visitor on my channel today, even though we are simulcast on both John and my channels here? Would you like to go first? And do you want because I was thinking okay, do you go O-line first round, and how's the draft look? Do you go D-line first round? How's the rest of the draft look? You can go another position as well. You go just straight BPA. There's a lot of ways to slice this thing. I don't know if we have enough time to do 3 versions of this dueling mock draft, but I would like you to go first, John. Okay. Do you have an inkling of if you would like to go O-line or D-line first, or do you think it's more about how it shakes out, and then I could do it differently no matter what you do in the first?
Yeah, I would prefer, now it depends on how the board falls. I prefer to go offensive line first. There's not a lot of stud linemen. The defensive line, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round, you could get, so the supply and demand says wait on defensive line. Offensive line, you got to get one early or you're probably going to be without. So I prefer O-line early. I don't think the 49ers think that way, however. So me personally, O-line early are my favorite. But what do the 49ers like to do? You have one of the worst defensive tackle rooms in the NFL, I believe. So this is a defensive tackle draft heavy, especially in the first, second, third, fourth round. So let's see how the board falls. Let's let that dictate our first move, and then let's go accordingly. Let's get weird. So we're going to be doing more than one mock today. Is that right?
Yeah, let's do it up. Let's do one, do another that's different, and see which way we like it. So I'll let you start it off, and if depending on the board, you can change it up. But if you go O-line first, I'm not going to go O-line first. I'm going to go D-line first. That's how we'll do this.
Right.
Look, we can kind of work together on this as well. It's not just yours versus mine. It's more about one scenario versus another scenario here. So with that said, are you good with the PFF simulator here?
Yeah, let's roll. Let's roll. I like that they always update it. I disagree with a lot of their rankings, but it's pretty spot on as far as just kind of what they create. It's unparalleled. So probably not going to trade a lot, especially if we're doing multiple. And you look at Mimbu went 4, Mason Graham went 5.
This is my nightmare scenario, because Mimbu and Mason Graham are the two guys that I think are the best fits for the San Francisco 49ers at pick 11. And it's getting increasingly more likely that neither one is going to get to the 49ers at pick 11. And at this point in time, it's probably more likely that Graham actually gets there than Armand Membo, because I think Membo's really positioned himself as the top offensive tackle in this class. He's the cleanest guy now. Josh Simmons has the red flag. Will Campbell's a guard. He's got the shorter arms, even if they, some teams still might think he's the best offensive lineman. But Membu, with the way he threw down at the combine, he's got enough length. He can stick at tackle, and it's just a cleaner evaluation for teams. So he's probably going to be the first offensive lineman off the board right now. Although people might be a little overrating the combine, as we do right after the combine.
Right. But he's on every team's board. Mason Graham's on every single team's board. Every team needs O-line, D linemen. Those two guys aren't falling. They're just too clean. They're too clean.
Well, let's keep this going then. I'm guessing there's probably not a trade-up scenario for you here anyway, with how the board has fallen here at the top. Abdul Carter, Amar Membo, Mason Graham, Travis Hunter, all off the board. Cam Ward, number 1.
Yeah, this is I like that, because I think that's probably one of the most realistic top 5s I've seen. And yeah, if you can't get Graham, I'm not trading up. I don't think I'd trade up for Mimbu. I'd be happy with them at 11. Ooh, Mikael Williams went 10.
Michael went 10. We had Ashton Genty to the Saints at 9. Tyler Warren, tight end, 8. Jihad Campbell is one of the highest I've ever seen him go. He went to the Jets at 7, and Will Campbell goes 6. So this makes the decision a little bit more difficult, I think, because it gets a lot easier if one of those guys falls. None of the common players that gets mocked to the 49ers fell in this mock, but maybe that means someone else is going to be there that you didn't expect to be there. So where does John Chapman go here at pick 11 in this scenario?
Yeah, there's a lot of good players. If you're doing best player available, I think Jahdae Barron needs to be in the conversation, but I don't think that he is. James Pierce Jr., I don't have Mike Green. I don't think the Niners will draft him or Will Johnson for character and injury issues. You keep scrolling down. That means I think the other offensive linemen, my probably top player. Oh, man. See, this is the problem. So, whenever I look at my board, Jahdae Barron's probably the top player on the board, but I can't do it. I just can't do it. Kelvin Banks. Do you look at James Pierce? I have them back to back in my rankings. And so, yeah, I want to see. I'm going to do it. I don't have a choice. You already told everybody the Texas thing. I'm going to go Kelvin Banks Jr. here.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I wouldn't expect you to go any other direction here, John, with this selection, and it makes total sense here. And so we'll see how this goes and plays out. One note on Barron for me is he's a nickel all day, and you can like him a lot, and you can say he's a top 10 player on your board. He's not going that high to me. I just that's the way I think about it. We saw Cooper DeJean. Heck, I don't think Jahdae Barron is good of a prospect as he is, and there's a lot to like. I don't think he's a better prospect than Brian Branch. Brian Branch went pick 45. Nickels don't go high in the NFL draft. Teams still, even though they're more valuable than they used to be, they still don't value him, and they don't take him in the top 20 picks.
So my question is, why do you think he's a nickel only? Where does that come from? Whenever you look at the arm length, it's not great. But, I mean, this dude did win the Jim Thorpe as an outside corner and shut down Jeremiah Smith, and the chances that he did in the big stage.
Yeah, he won the Thorpe Award as an outside corner playing cover 2 zone.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that is true.
I didn't see man-to-man outside maybe it's there. I just didn't see enough reps of it, but I just didn't see the evidence of it. And I really liked him inside more. So I just think that's his best spot, is being inside. And I think it's valuable in the NFL. Maybe teams should be taking guys in the top 20, but his length profile and what teams will like him more as in the NFL, it's sort of like the offensive tackle versus guard and center situation. Teams value the interior guys less. And I think he's a nickel. I think it's his best spot. I think it's where he'll play awesome in the NFL and to be a great player, should be a first round pick, but those guys tend to fall. If Cooper DeJean goes 40, if Brian Banks goes,
DeJean had the foot issue though.
Yeah.
Like, so, but you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I just think he's so clean.
So top 10, top 11, top 50, that's too rich. You start getting into the 20s, and I think every team's board is going to look a lot different. And this year more than other. We talked about how we're going to go fast in this, and still we're just jabbering away with your selection made. But I haven't had a chance to talk with you, John, about the draft a lot too. So I'm excited to do this a little bit more often with you as we get closer to.
It's happening. It's happening.
So it is Kelvin Banks, he's the pick, and that makes perfect sense, and I wouldn't expect you to do anything else. So Niners take Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas, offensive tackle at pick number 11. Now, if you want me to pause things and take a look at the board, if you want to make a trade or something like that, that's okay too, but really interested to see how the board falls if you go tackle early versus if you maybe went defensive line or another position early.
Yeah, and I think with this draft, like, I'm not giving up a third-round pick to jump up. And so, like, the only types of moves I see is jumping up from like 43 to like 40 or something along those lines. And probably my biggest critique of PFF is you can't see who's on the board when you're not picking. So it's hard to like say.
Know. Yeah. And like, I'm looking at the way this board fell, and for some reason, Luther Burden has fallen on draft boards. I love the tape. I have no doubt in my mind that Kyle Shanahan absolutely will love Luther Burden. If he starts to creep toward round 2, and the Niners are really thinking about trading Brandon Ayuk, I think Luther Burden is kind of a dark horse player the 49ers could trade up for in a Brandon Ayuk fashion.
Yeah, I 100%. I mean, he just fits. Now, what do you do whenever you have both him and Pearsall? How do you allocate those wide receiver where they line up? I don't think either one of them is true X.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's all right. You always draft a year out. So now we're looking at, man, there's some really good fits, just the top 3. Demetrius Knight, he's that thumper linebacker that if you don't bring back Greenlaw is absolutely tone setter type guy. Wide receiver that is a true X, I think. Ellick, the Stanford guy, toasted Travis Hunter. TJ Sanders, defensive tackle. Like I said, worst in the NFL. I think that defensive tackle room. So TJ Sanders is at the top of my list here. Let's keep scrolling down. Xavier Watts. I love Landon Jackson. Gosh, probably my favorite second round pick at pick 43 is Landon Jackson. I absolutely love that guy. Alfred Collins, you want to get better against the run. No way I'm going back-to-back Longhorns. Can't do that. Princely Umam-Nielen, I like him. The bend is great, but some issues. Some people work ethic, whatever else, character stuff, but whatever. We'll see what happens there. Keep going down. Let's see. What names do you see?
You're not going to draft Alfred Collins?
Texas? I love Alfred Collins.
Defensive tackle?
I love Alfred Collins. We need a defensive tackle. And the problem with Texas is they run such similar schemes, offense and defensively, and Shanahan goes down there for a week every offseason to work with the team, and he played there. Like, there's so many. Plus, they're going to have the second most players drafted this year. What other names?
I mean, we're seeing the board right now, and look, this is the rankings according to PFF, and it might look a little bit different on draft day, but it's just the volume of defensive linemen, whether you get an edge, and maybe there's some one-dimensional guys, maybe they're more of an upfield rusher defensive tackle that's not great against the run, and you start to go one-dimensional maybe on day 2, and especially maybe 4th round, but there's still going to be good defensive linemen, defensive tackles, defensive ends, all different shapes and sizes. There's 0 offensive tackles. They're gone. Like, that's it. If you don't take it at 11, that's your shot, unless you want to try to really roll the dice on someone who's a project sort of a player, like Charles Grant from William and Mary or something like that.
Right. And so I think defensive line's a huge need. You've got rumors out there about cutting, Itir Gross-Matos and possibly Leonard Floyd. So for me, you could talk me out of this. Landon Jackson sitting there, I think it's between him and TJ Sanders. And this defensive tackle draft is so stinking deep that I'm going to wait just a little bit. I don't think the ends are as deep as defensive ends. So I want to go Landon Jackson here. I think he, again, another clean prospect, elite athleticism, size, length that I think fits. If you're going to move on from Leonard Floyd, this is the length and the kind of run pass player that is just universal and can take a lot of snaps. I like Landon Jackson. What are your thoughts on him?
Landon Jackson is interesting to me. I think there's a chance he gets overdrafted, might even sneak into the first round just because he had such a great combine. He is a little bit of an odd mover on tape, and almost in borderline too tall sort of a category, right? Looks like
there's no change of direction. That's not what he brings. It's
right.
Straight line and it's straight up. I mean, that the vertical and all the stuff, the explosiveness. But yeah, if you want a bend guy, I don't think that he's that. So he's the opposite of James Pierce, or actually James Pierce, not even great bend, but he's the first guy.
If you like Shamar Stewart in the first round, I'd much rather take Landon Jackson in the second round all day.
1,000%.
The same problems. And Landon Jackson went kind of crazy at the combine. 6'6", 264, 10-inch hands, 33 and a quarter arms, 4.68 in the 40 at that size. He had a 40 and a half inch vertical, which is kind of crazy too. So, and of course didn't run a 3-cone because I don't think that's where he would shine. But in that, straight ahead explosive stuff, that's where he shines. And so I'd much rather take Landon Jackson and have the same, potential pitfalls with him as Shamar Stewart and take him as high as he's going to have to probably go in the top half of the first round.
And I'll say this too. He has more production in 1 year than Shamar Stewart had in 3.5.
Yeah.
And you're getting him later. And he's just the same. Like, I hate how I love the combine, but they always pick one guy just to go all in on. Like, if you stack their workouts compared to each other, they're almost identical. It's not like, I don't know. Landon Jackson, I feel like he's a better football player and he's just as good an athlete with the same size. Yeah, Landon Jackson the second is like a perfect pairing for me.
All right, starting on the edges first before you go inside. And I'm down with that strategy because it's easier to find the interior guys, whether it's defensive or offensive line, in my opinion. So Kelvin Banks Jr., round 1, Landon Jackson going to pick 43 here out of Arkansas, big defensive end in round 2, a couple of third-round picks here. And, I think we'll maybe take it through round 4 or something like that to make sure we have enough time to kind of do a couple of drafts, couple of versions, and then look at it and compare at what that looks like putting together the early rounds of a draft, because the late rounds of the draft, probably doesn't have as big of an impact on what your strategy is going to be after the first, 3-4 rounds.
Right.
So we're to pick 75 now. Got a O lineman, got a D lineman, no interior guys yet on either side. And interesting group of players left here at pick 75. Does anything catch your eye here? Josiah Stewart, undersized edge rusher. You got Mason Taylor, Jason Taylor's kid, big athletic tight end out of LSU. Phenomenal workouts there.
Dude, I love this. This is every time I get to the third round, it doesn't matter what mock draft simulator you look at. There's like 15 guys that I'm just like, hell yeah. Like, if I could trade that 11 pick for 3 third rounders, I probably would do. I know that's not going to happen. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at just guys, DJ Giddens, Marcus Bowe. I really like Mason Taylor out of LSU. I wouldn't be shocked if he's the best tight end in this draft when it's all said and done. I don't have him ranked as such, but he has that potential. There are just guys on guys on guys. And if we keep scrolling down, like there's just, I love that. This is the sweet spot. Jalen Royals, awesome. Savion Williams. Are you kidding me? If you want that Debo guy, and I think he should go in the third, another guy like Shamar that's going to get pushed up because of the combine, whatever. You got Chris Paul Jr., the linebacker that would be perfect, is exactly a 49ers guy. Not seeing a lot of defensive tackles here, Peacock. I thought there would be more. Maybe they have got. Oof.
Oh, we'll keep scrolling. There'll be more. In fact, I can just go straight to the defensive tackles and we can see who's there because, and again, you can maybe even wait to 99, maybe even wait till 112 in round 4 for a defensive tackle. Like, again, there's all different shapes and sizes. Might not have as much juice as pass rusher when you get to that point, but man, the 49ers need to show up the interior run defense as well on defense. And, they might have added someone like Jonathan Allen in free agency before the draft even happens.
I hope that they add something, and I love that. I don't love that people are getting cut, but like the idea of trading for premier players just seems, no, I don't want to do that because you can get every option you want is available in free agency without giving up capital. Yeah, right here. Okay, so D1 Walker, you want to stop the run. CJ West is kind of a do-it-all. Aeneas Peebles, he's your pass rusher. Like, I love so many of these guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to go best player available. I saw two when you were scrolling down on best. I saw Harold Fannin Jr., who I absolutely love that player. I think that he could do pretty much whatever you want. And Jared Wilson, the center, I think that he's a perfect scheme fit. Center's a big issue for me.
Absolutely.
But if I'm going best player available, I'm going to bypass Mason Taylor. I'm going Harold Fannin Jr., tight end. And just people talk about he's a move piece and he's smaller and he's not as fast as you want. And I think the third round is probably where he's going to fall to. But if you want somebody that's going to routes, move in space, and just the run blocking energy, he fits exactly what the 49ers do. I like Harold Fannin Jr. probably more than most. I'm going to have a second round grade on him.
Love it. Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end, the move tight end. He's a really interesting prospect because he doesn't move at all on tape like I thought he was going to. I thought he was going to be the little undersized kind of jitterbug guy, but he's like a power player, but small. And it's like his joints are taped together. They don't move right. He just moves differently. Like now that I've watched Harold Fannin Jr., it doesn't matter what uniform he's wearing, where he is. He could be at a pickup game. I'd be like, oh, that's Harold Fannin because he moves different than everybody I've ever seen, which could be good or bad depending on the evaluator.
Juwan Jennings is similar, right? Like, dude can't run speed at all, but he gets separation all the time somehow. And he's just that guy. And for the people that say, Fannin, he hadn't played against anybody, you go watch that Penn State game where there's elite athletes all over the field. He's having a damn field day against those guys. So I think that he can compete. I love him. He's too fun. Oh, Jared Wilson fell. We're at pick 99. The center from Georgia, strong consideration. We still got some defensive tackles. Deion Walker's there. Is there anybody else? I'm not an Isaiah Bond guy. I have to throw that out there for the people that think I'm a Texas homer. I'm staying away from Cam Williams and Isaiah Bond. I do not want to go that route.
At risk of calling you too much of a Texas homer, what about Andrew Makuba? Talk to me about him. Is he potentially a guy that could come in and play free safety, maybe a little nickel, maybe a Jimmy Ward role for the 49ers? Because the Niners still haven't really done a great job of replacing Jimmy Ward.
You look at safeties that have the most snaps as a single high type safety, and you look at safeties that have the lowest QBR when targeted. He's at the top of both of those lists in this draft for everybody. So if the critique of the Niners' current personnel at the safety position is too slow and we have too many strong safeties, Andrew Makuba is he's the solver of that. And he is, I call them rush crush guys, people that fit the character, people that fit the play style, people that don't have red flags on their tape or injury status and are great off the field. Check, 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 check. Like Makuba is clean prospect. And again, you talked about Texas and their zone coverage. And again, he's had with Clemson and with Texas, very similar coverage type packages that he would go through with the 49ers. So the fit is there 100%. Now my main question to you, and I think that this kind of is going to affect this pick. Are we going to do 4 rounds? Because if we have 4th round picks, I'm waiting on defensive tackle even longer.
Yeah. No, let's do 4 rounds. I think that'll give us a good idea of how the draft starts to look and the shape it takes depending on what happens in rounds 1.
Okay.
And 2. Yeah.
So the question here is center versus safety. If we're going best player available, Andrew Makuba is going to be at the top of that list. Defensive tackle, I still think there's several defensive tackles. So again, the 4th round might be DT. But Andrew Makuba, why not? I will not draft another Texas player, so help me God. But they fit. So
my favorite Texas guy is still on the board. It's the linebacker, David Benga.
Benda.
Benda. Oh man, I was shocked when I watched him play. Like, how did Texas not win the national championship? They got a lot of talent. I was just saying that earlier about Ole Miss.
Quarterback.
They got a ridiculous defensive line. They got this quarterback people are talking about might be a 1st rounder. They weren't even in the tournament.
Well, the team that beat us is going to have more players drafted this year, Ohio State. But that was the national championship game, Texas versus Ohio State, and that play call on the freaking 3-yard line. I love Sark, but some BS Kyle Shanahan goal line play calling when the season was on the line. But anyway,
Kyle,
you're hurting me, Peacock. You're hurting me, man.
I'm sorry. Didn't mean to bring that up. I don't care that much about college football, too. It's minor league football for me. I'm just looking at it as how does it affect the NFL, the NFL draft? That's all it's about.
You don't have a team? You ain't got one team you pull for?
I do not care. I went to San Francisco State. They didn't even have a football program. Like, I do not care.
There you go.
Yeah. No rooting interest. My Saturdays are family day. I watch prospects in January, February, March, April. I don't watch college football on Saturdays.
See, I used to be a bigger Texas fan than a Niners fan. Growing up in Texas and coaching, we got free tickets to all the Texas games, so we could go anytime we wanted to. But whenever I started doing the Niners show and I had to, start doing all the traveling to the road trips, I had to promise the wife, like, look, no more Saturdays. Like, Saturdays, I'm not going to be glued to the TV watching college football. That was the compromise I made. It still hurts sometimes, but the wife wins.
We going Makuba?
Makuba. We're going Makuba.
There it is. Like, you could. Oh, there went Wilson. Very last pick of round 3, 2 picks later. But there's going to be a defensive tackle on the board. It's not going to be a little run on defensive tackles. So Deion Walker went 108 to the Bills. CJ West hurts a little, went 105 to the Patriots. As I mentioned, Jared Wilson went 101. But you know what? That might have been your last shot to get that guy who could be a potential starting safety for you at free safety. So I don't hate the move there. And there's still going to be some defensive tackles. You just want to go straight to see who's there.
Yes, I do. I don't care what else is there. It is defense. And I would like to go earlier. Like, don't get me wrong. And if you could swap some of these out, and we'll see on the next one, there's still so many studs. Jamari Caldwell, huge, moves so well. JJ Pegues, great.
Yep.
Simeon Barrow Jr.
This is why you wait. I love both these guys. And they might be, interesting players and maybe not perfect prospects, but the way Jamari Caldwell moves at his size, play a little one technique, and might have a little more juice in him than that. You get that at pick 112, sign me up, man.
Yeah, that's where I'm going, because I see a couple. Simeon Barrow Jr. is probably one of my favorite late round guys. That is that perfect 3-tech that the 49ers love, and I think he's going to fall. So Jamari Caldwell, defensive tackle here, and probably going to go defensive tackle on the next pick. And I would just be very, very happy with that. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah,
Ty Robinson, Cameron Jackson.
Into day 3. Absolutely. All right. Jamari Caldwell?
Jamari Caldwell, defensive tackle. He's going to play more of the plugger role for the 49ers, that bigger guy, which it's kind of weird. I think the 2 best defensive tackles we have, Malik Collins and Evan Anderson, are that role. We don't have that small 3-tech, but right here is just best player available, Jamari Caldwell.
Yep.
Now, hopefully one of these guys fall. If Simeon Barrow's there, I don't need to look at another position. Will he fall that far? I think 4th round is kind of where he's going to go. But he is, another one of those guys that's probably going to be a gold helmet type later in this draft, Simeon Barrow, because what do Niners like? Versatility, experience, no off-field stuff. Like, he is that to a T. So did he fall? That is the question.
Do you start to consider a backup quarterback at this area of the draft, late 4th round?
Will Howard, yes. And my philosophy is, if you don't have a top 5 quarterback, you are constantly throwing darts to get one. Well, what is a typical top 5 quarterback? I'm talking height, weight, speed, arm strength, those things. Brock Purdy's not that. Doesn't mean he can't be a top 5 quarterback producer. But if I'm taking chances on quarterbacks in the draft, I want height, weight, speed, rocket arm type mobile quarterbacks. I'm not taking Quinn Ewers. I'm not taking, the smaller whatever quarter. I want Will Howard. That's it. I wouldn't take him here, but I'd consider it.
Before you make your back-to-back picks here to end the 4th round, and in your first version of the mock draft here on our Dueling mock drafts episode, I want to get to this super chat here from John. Appreciate you, John. He says, would you trade the number 11 pick for Jacksonville's 3rd, and 2nd? Is that a good trade on the draft chart? So you'd be dropping all the way out of the 1st round to the 2nd round and getting 2/3 in return. That's terrible value.
So if we add up those picks, okay, their 2nd rounder, 540, their 3rd rounder, 240. So we're right at about 800, plus their other third rounder 150. That's 950 for a 1250 pick. You would need more, probably a second rounder next year. So 2 2s and 2 3s, but still.
It would, if the Jags needed to get up from round 2 to pick 11, they would have to give up their future first, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for this draft, this would be the draft to do something crazy like that. Because again, you get to the third round and I'm just like, gimme. Like all these guys are fits and you could just get so many quality starters. But yeah, probably not.
I'm okay with moving back for the 49ers. And that would kind of be the scenario I would like more. And it would be, it'd be a little frustrating, I think, for fans where it's like, you don't get the payoff until future years. If someone wants to give you a future first round pick, especially a team that could potentially be bad, and who knows what happens at quarterback? Maybe these negotiations with Brock go south. And I always talk about the idea of fast Peyton Manning. If Arch Manning is fast Peyton Manning, you know what I mean? Like you've seen him. I haven't seen very many snaps of his, but I was shocked how athletic he is. He's more
truth,
like
man.
His dad was a former receiver, not like his uncles. If he's legit, like give me a bunch of picks and see what happens. Because if you somehow end up with, and that's what would really change. Like if you want to talk about a reset, what about you get that? Like what about literally you get fast Peyton Manning to be your quarterback of the franchise for the foreseeable future, right? So if a team wants to come a long way and give up a future first, I'd be listening.
Yes. Now, if Arch is your target, I don't think he comes out next year. I think he's going to stay. He's making more money there than he would here. I think he's up to,
I wonder if it would be a scenario where it's like, oh crap, the Niners got the first pick in the draft.
Right.
I will come out versus, oh, it's the Browns. Yeah, I'll stay in college one more year.
I think that's huge. We saw it with Eli. Will you put the cap on? Not putting the cap on, right? On but yeah, if we get Arch, I'm in. And you control Brock. Even if you don't get a deal done, he sits out, you could franchise him. Then you franchise tag him. I wish they would have done it with Ayuk. That would have been, if you would have went the T. Higgins route with Ayuk, imagine where the 49ers would be right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, and I don't want to talk about the Brock stuff. Again, we mentioned that at the top. Is like, we're trying to avoid that. We're talking draft. We're talking how you build around this thing and build around Brock. But it would be ideal for the 49ers just to play this one out one more year because, if they start selling off pieces too, talking about this reset, it's not like the team's going to be better. And if you go 6-11 again, I mean, you might have coach and GM on a hot seat. Would you really want to give your quarterback a long-term contract if you have back-to-back years where, you're not a playoff team? And so ideally, you would get another look at this whole thing in this transitional year and really evaluate more about what you are before you drop that massive, huge contract on a quarterback. So ideally, that's the way you would want to play it anyway, is let it play out through and, utilize the franchise tag or whatever you need to with Brock Purdy, even if it ends up costing you more money because you really have to throw down more cash because he's that good. That's okay too. I don't mind paying a great quarterback.
And if you look at Washington and the Cowboys, those are probably the last two that we saw with Kirk Cousins and Dak, where you franchise. I don't think anybody lost in that deal. Cowboys probably should have ponied up the money earlier. But even Washington with the terrible coach and GM and all the whatever that was going on, they got what they got out of Kirk Cousins and then got a third round comp pick. Not terrible. They got, 5 solid years of quarterback play. So yeah, I'm not in a rush to do any of that. So take that for what you will. Now let's get back to it. We got to wrap this one up if we're going to do another
Chapman,
one.
On the clock here, back-to-back picks to end round 4, and then we'll get to the dueling mock draft version number 2. It started with the offensive tackle in this one, Kelvin Banks Jr., then Landon Jackson, big defensive end in round 2, Harold Fannin and Andrew Makuba, tight end and safety in round 3. You got Jamari Caldwell, big defensive tackle to start round 4. 2 more fourth-round picks here at 138.
I love this draft. I
think this is a great draft, and this is the argument for going tackle in round 1.
Man, all right. Are there any defensive tackles left? I'm not walking out of here with just one defensive tackle. We might have to reach a little bit, but
go to.
I don't care.
Let's see who's out there. Interior defensive line. Simeon Barrow's there, and I think you said I don't want to quote you. I don't want to throw it back in your face. You said if Simeon Barrow's still there, you don't have to look at anything else, John.
Yeah, he's the pick here. He is a perfect 49ers fit. That Maurice Hurst type role that we always have, that 3-tech slasher. He's perfect.
So you got the 330-pound defensive tackle, the 1-tech, and then you get the 3-tech in Simeon Barrow, a little more penetrator for the San Francisco 49ers. So a little versatility with the defensive lineman, doubling up on the D tackles since you didn't get one early, and utilizing the depth of this draft class. And I can't argue with that strategy at all. Simeon Barrow out of Miami at pick 138. And now you got pick 139, and everybody else except for Barrow still on the board for you here. What kind of position you want to get?
I kind of want to see what falls.
John, don't try to sell me on Quinn Ewers, because that one's not going to happen for me. Okay?
I'm not. Oh,
okay,
trust me. I am not selling you on that dude at all. Good leadership and a great locker room, great teammate, but no, absolutely not. Khalil Mullins, I think he fits, but it's too early. Pat Bryant, we don't have a wide receiver. He's a true X guy. If you need an X guy.
He didn't run well. I think he ran 4.6 or something like that at the combine, which is good and bad because I think he's going to be around later. He's one of my favorite day 3 guys. I like Pat Bryant a lot, and I'm kind of surprised.
Do you see him as an X, or do you see him as like, no, you got to move him inside?
He's not fast, but I think he's fine outside. I mean, he's quicker than Juwan Jennings is, and he kind of could replace that idea. He's good getting the ball down the field. I love the way he gets open in the intermediate level of the field. Like, he doesn't drop footballs. Like, he's just a good football player, and he's got a little bit of size to him, and he will block you too. So
yeah.
If you want a future Juwan Jennings and not pay Juwan Jennings, maybe gives you a little more outside versatility than Juwan Jennings does as a bigger slot, even though he could probably do some of those things as well. Oh, yeah, I love me some Pat Bryant. I'm just kind of looking at the combine just to double check. 6'2 and a quarter, 204. I think he actually played a little bigger, probably got down to run good and still didn't run good. Ran a 4.61, which is not ideal. 37.5-inch vertical, though. Like, I like the way he gets the ball down the field. I like the way he tracks the football. So even though he's not fast, he's still able to be a downfield threat, which I like.
And the contested catches, which he's great at, but that just means you don't get separations. You take that for whatever you want. All right, let's keep scrolling down. Let's see what else is there. This is, I think, where PFF gets a little. Kobe Hudson, I like him more. I think he's more of a Niners fit. The UCF guy, I think he is a perfect type guy. Let's see. Quincy Riley.
Kylie Williams has some speed, and I know a lot of people like his tape. He's named Kyle Williams, though, is his biggest negative, I think.
It was the number one indicator that Ronnie Bell wasn't going to work out whenever he picked that jersey number. You had options, bro. You cannot wear that number, and like the PTSD is just triggered. Anyway, take that for what. Quincy Riley, cornerback, Louisville, another guy that, you know, I think the 49ers really, really like and kind of fits. They met with him at the combine. 5'11", 194. That's like exactly the prototype that they love at DBs. Ran a 4.4. So if you want that kind of corner, you know, with a lot of experience, he's played 2,700 snaps. Like, this guy has played some ball at the corner position. So he might be the top of my list right now. Let's keep scrolling down. I just want to make sure I'm not missing something crazy. Jackson Haas. We don't have a tight end. You went
Harold Fanon. Round 3.
Oh yeah, we did. So never mind. Not going there. I'm just, right now I'm leaning. Let's keep scrolling down. The center, Seth McLaughlin, I think is a little too early. I'm not really seeing anybody that I'm in love with to kind of complement outside of, Denny Stutzman, good. Running back, Marcus Yarns, perfect fit. I think I'm going to go Quincy Riley. I think it matches need. I think it matches perfect 49ers fit. They love the guys with the experience, and he just kind of does everything. Pass breakups, you know, I like him a lot. Wish he was a better tackler, but we're at the end of the 3rd round. So overall, I like this haul. I'm not upset.
I like it as well. Let me hold on a second.
We're going to have our work cut out for us for this D-line mock draft.
I forgot I put it for 7 rounds.
Well, I can screenshot it.
Or screenshot it for me, will you? And then we'll be able to throw that on the screen a little bit later.
All right. Boom. There we go.
I got to be honest with you. This is going to be a tough one to beat. This is a... Oops. All right, cool. So that is mock draft number 1. And we will now do it again and go mock draft number 2.
This is fun. Sorry I talk so much. It's a problem that I think we both have sometimes because we're so used to doing solos.
It's like saying that a basketball player dunks too much, right? Like, it's what we do. If you couldn't do solo podcasts if you didn't talk too much, right?
My favorite 1-star review I've ever received, which I usually don't like pay attention to, but somebody sent it to me. It was a solo podcast, and it was just 1-star talks too much. And it was just like, all right. I like it. So I just DM'd you on Twitter the screenshot, which is, so that's there if we need it. So awesome. Just so you know.
That is perfect. All right, so let's do this again then. Let's go back, do a little mock draft simulator. And I'll need your assistance here. This isn't just mine versus just yours. This is more like playing with scenarios. What does it look like to start with the tackle versus what it looks like to maybe start with a defensive lineman? Or who knows? Maybe let's go BPA and really throw a wrench in this thing and take a completely different position in version 2 of our dueling mock draft. But let's fire this thing up. I'm going to start draft. And I'm not going to do any trades here, I don't think. And I put it on fast version anyway. So
I don't think we can see it yet. It's not presented.
Oh, I didn't put it on the screen. I'm going to put this thing on the screen here. All right. Mock draft simulator. Shout out PFF. They make a pretty mock draft simulator. You got PFF guys. Come on, though. You got to let us see who's on the board when the pick's not up yet, so you can navigate trades a little better. That's the only downfall of the PFF mock. Okay, here we go. I love Mike Green, but man, there's the red flags. And if some of the stuff that's out there is true, it's going to be tough, and you can't really take him this high for the 49ers. And I think he's still a first round guy, and I think he's a beast. Maybe lacks a little bit in arm length category. But man, if he had 34-inch arms and was clean off the field, great leader, character, all that stuff. And look, he might still be that guy. I'm not sure. I'm not privy to all the information. There's just some whispers out there about red flags from stuff from Mike Green's past. Then he might be my favorite guy for the 49ers at pick 11. But right now, can't really do it. Josh Simmons, similar with the injury, man. That patellar tendon tear, it's been bad. It's ended Weston Richburg's career, offensive lineman for the 49ers, and it's might be ending Drake Jackson's career. And I think the 49ers are going to stay away from that, especially with all the injury problems they've had.
Yeah, since Kinlaw, they haven't touched one of those players in the first 4 rounds at all. Now, we'll see. Trends break, but it's what it is. So, question is, Kenneth Grant looks like one of the best defensive tackles here. Do you think that he's a guy, they met with him, is that a possibility for you if you do force a D-line pick, which is the biggest need?
I think on tape, it's Walter Nolan by far.
Okay.
There's been some whispers about him. It's nothing specific that I've really heard, but there's been some stuff that's like, oh yeah, maybe there's some stuff with Walter Nolan and his, transfer from wherever he was, Texas A&M or something like that. Nothing serious that I've really heard yet. I don't know. Will it affect him? But tape wise, it's Walter Nolan all day. And
so, okay, I'm gonna push against this. Not with that, but like my number 1 DT is Derek Harmon. I love the Oregon dude. You don't like him?
I think that Walter Nolan is consistently better run defender. He's consistently a better pass rusher. His motor runs hotter, and he's just a better player all around. Derek Harmon's got some nice highlight plays, but I don't like his consistency. And there's something weird about his biomechanics in his lower half and like skinny ankles, skinny legs, where if he doesn't beat you with that initial burst, it's kind of play over. And he's bordering.
He's a defensive end and a defensive tackle body.
Kind of. Yeah, a little top heavy or something. Something's weird about it. Walter Nolan, there's times where it's like, this might be Jalen Carter with, minus 10 pounds or something like
Number
that.
1 player coming out of high school. Like, he's talent.
And there's some motor to Walter Nolan's game, which I like as well. So I think the reason he's ranked where he's ranked is just because there's maybe some stuff that maybe teams aren't clean on with him. I can't really speculate on it. And I haven't heard anything as serious or as definite as with some other guys that might have red flags. So for me, it's easy here, and it's Walter Nolan would be the best player for me here.
I love it. So Walter Nolan. So we're going to see, and again, the whole point of this show, one is just so I can hang out with Brian, but also to see what happens if you go O-line first versus D-line first. Walter Nolan is 100% worthy of the number 11 pick.
Talent-wise. Now, maybe there's stuff that comes out and teams maybe are red flagging him. He's not on their boards. I haven't heard anything specific, so I'm not going to go there with him quite yet, and I like the tape. I think he's worthy of this pick. And to me, there's 3 names, and Walter Nolan is one of them for the 49ers. And I don't think I can mock anybody at pick 11 that's not Armand Membo, Mason Graham, or Walter Nolan right now, in my opinion. So I'm going
I think Walter Nolan would be there. The other two,
right?
I don't think so.
And this could be one of the trade down scenarios too. It's like, okay, Walter Nolan 11, but someone wants to come up for, say, Tet McMillan, and that's, people always say, hey, trade down. Well, it takes two to tango. So if you want to say trade down, who are people trading up for? And I could see Tet McMillan being that guy, right? As far as how this fell, maybe Will Johnson could be that guy for some teams. And Kenneth Grant, because of the upside, I like Nolan better, but I could probably be talked into Kenneth Grant as well. But then again, like, kind of depends who's on the board, because there's so many good defensive tackles. Maybe you could get a little bit later too.
You don't consider James Pierce in the conversation here?
I liked James Pierce at first, and I love seeing him run 4.47 at the combine. But the more I watch him, the more there's a little something missing with his. There's not a lot of speed to power. His frame is not such that, even though he's 6'5", he's just a narrow hipped guy. He's not going to put on a lot of weight.
Oh, he's built like a sprinter, man. That's Usain Bolt type build. I do like his run. Like, I liked him more against the run than I thought. I think
the run. He's just kind of light in the shorts a little bit. And he's actually not as good of a pass rusher I thought he was going to be. If he doesn't win with that speed, there's not a lot else there.
He doesn't have bend. He doesn't have bend.
Big bust potential there for James Pierce, in my opinion. And I'm just much more clean on the tape and the football player that Walter Nolan would be. So he's clearly ahead for me there.
So we're doing Walter Nolan. It's happening. I ain't mad about this at all.
Pick 11. Let's see who's down here at pick number 2 now in the second round. So this is scenario 2. It starts with a defensive lineman. And if you don't like Walter Nolan, plug in a different defensive lineman in your mind there to the 49ers at pick number 11. And who knows, maybe there's an opportunity to trade down first before you make any pick that's not, say, Mason Graham or Armand Membo.
And your biggest need, I think defensive tackle is the biggest weakness on this team. You address it early, premium pick. I think people would be very happy with that.
So this is interesting because Josh Connerly makes it to the 49ers in the second round. And I was impressed with the Connerly tape. He's really athletic. I think there's more there. I think he needs to get stronger. It's the power part of his game that I would worry about. But as far as a guy who's athletic enough to stick and play offensive tackle, I think Josh Connerly absolutely is that. And I think for the 49ers, if they draft a tackle, they have a spot at guard for him to play a year before he's ready to jump out there, and expect this guy to walk in as a rookie and play left tackle. So let a guy like Connerly or, whoever you draft that maybe, even if it's Membo, probably plays left guard for a year, right? Until
I think that's what they want.
Decides to retire. I would say play him left guard before I would try to just replace McKivitz and have him play right tackle instead. And can I ask you about this? Nobody's talking about it. Is Dominic Pooney a tackle of the future for the 49ers? Can you utilize that money so you don't have to force offensive tackle in the draft, thinking, well, look, Pooney's more athletic and has longer arms than the guy who's currently playing offensive tackle. Whether you kick him out to right tackle or maybe plays left tackle, he played tackle in college just fine. He's a large human being. Like, he's way bigger than I thought. Pooney was the biggest. Was one of my biggest takeaways at camp was like, oh, this guy's huge. And he's looks like a really good football player, maybe better than they even expected, even though they liked him in the round 3 area. Maybe he's an offensive tackle for the future that would allow the 49ers some flexibility to not force offensive tackle in the draft.
Chris Forster would say no, right? Like, every time they bring it up, he's like, no, he's a guard. He's a guard. We're going to keep him at guard. But you're not wrong. And the problem is, whenever you look at Colton McKivitz, he's not a tackle either. He just happens to be there because they got nobody else.
Way more tackle than McKivitz.
Yes. And so is Josh Connerly. Right. Connerly, my one issue is I think he might be the one that's like, you can't push him into guard, because his anchor ability is his biggest question mark. And his athleticism, man, you put him right tackle or right tackle, he would dust Colton McKivitz. Like, the athleticism, the length, he's got his arms 34 inches. Like, Connerly is like, man, he's a perfect right tackle. He's a perfect right. So then do you kick McKivitz inside? There's an issue with the 49ers offensive line, and you get the best 5 out there. That's never been their approach. Like, you remember when Jalen Moore, like when we had the injury at right tackle with McGlinchey, and they're like, well, can Jalen Moore play right tackle? They're like, yeah, we haven't practiced him there. And it was like, what? Like, I'm sorry?
Only. You play left tackle.
Right tackle. He's got to be transfer place. It was just like, what are you doing here?
That's just bad coaching, because you got to have your backup tackles playing both sides and guard.
So Connerly, if you draft Connerly, which I think is a great pick, if he falls this far, I personally, John Chapman said, you're right tackle. Colton McKivitz, go learn left guard. Like, that's what I would do.
Yeah. Or what about Josh Connerly as a center? He's got that athleticism. By the way, Josh Connerly, so 6'4" and 5'8", 311 pounds, big 10 and 3/8 inch hands, long enough, 33 and a half arm length. A lot of the arm lengths are a little bit shorter too, that a lot of offensive linemen are talking about, like, hey, I'm actually a half inch taller than that, longer than that. And I don't remember what the Senior Bowl weigh-in was for Josh Connerly. Was he at the Senior Bowl?
Josh Connerly,
yeah, he was.
Yes,
he was at the Senior Bowl.
He was the one that got blow up by Mike
Again,
Green.
like the anchor is kind of, what you're talking about. That is the one thing that showed up on tape, and I was looking for it because of the Mike Green rep, and I did see it on some tape, and that's the question. So definitely Connerly does need to get a little bit stronger. Former running back, by the way, and you could see it with the way he ran. 5:05 40-yard dash, 171 10-yard split, fastest among all offensive linemen at the combine.
I freaking love him. It would be funny to have the player with the longest arms on the team to be your center. Would be hilarious. But if I draft Connerly, I put him at right tackle. I'm kicking McKivitz in. I doubt Forster would do that, but that would be my take on it. But I like Connerly a lot.
I would potentially pass on Connerly here if the right player was available at another position. Is it Trey Amos? Was there like a stud defensive end, pass rusher, maybe? Savone Ravel. Savone is how you pronounce his first name, apparently. He's kind of a freak athlete, but he's coming off the injury. Niners going to avoid the injury guys. So I really can't pass on him here, but the William and Mary guy would be an interesting project, especially if you're not going to start Connerly.
Charles Grant. You'd take him in the second round?
No, not in the second round, but I would say go a different position here and wait on him, and maybe try to go with the the high upside project in round 3 potentially. But
do you think Demetrius Knight is a possibility, like this early?
He's a freak and he's a beast. I probably wouldn't go off ball backer here. I just think that it's something that you draft and develop a little bit later. The 49ers have been pretty good at that. Maybe Sherwood comes over with Saleh from the New York Jets in free agency, won't be a big money free agent. It's more that I just hope you don't have to draft an off-ball backer this high. Good player. Yeah. Connerly is the pick at 43.
I'm cool with this. DT, Walter Nolan, OT, Josh Connerly. You address the trenches, which everybody wants done, except for probably Kyle Shanahan. I would be very, very happy with this.
So similar group of guys here that were here when you were on the clock in round 3.
We took Harold Fannin at this spot and the previous one. Man, there's so many good players. The third round is just fit. You know what I mean? Like, there are so many guys here. If you wanted to reach on somebody, or if you just want to take best available, or you want to address a position, I love the third round. Love the third round.
So I do like the big body defensive tackles, and I think I'll probably double up a defensive tackle as well, but you can wait on some of those guys. So I'm going to push my luck there, since you got the 290-pound penetrating 3-tech and Walter Nolan early. I could still go big body D tackle later. I could go tight end here.
I love these.
There was going to be a defensive back I really loved here, potentially either at corner or potentially a safety. I'm not really seeing that. Savion Williams scares the bejesus out of me, just because I think there's less utility with him, even though he's kind of a freak of nature.
He'll be gone in the second round too, I think.
Think so? I don't know.
Those testing numbers. The film is awful, but the testing numbers are just. It's Julio Jones.
Yeah, he's got to go to the right team with the right plan for him, and might be Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, Kyle's just like he's going to jump in the super chat and just say, pick him. What about Jacob Parrish? Do you like him? I love Jacob Parrish.
I haven't watched a lot of Jacob Parrish. Is he a legit third round guy for you?
He tested way better than everybody thought, and he's the most physical corner in this draft, period. But yeah, 4.3 speed, outside corner, plays a lot of zone, tough as hell. He's one of those Renardo Green type fits that just, Niners met with him. Oh, you're stuck, aren't you?
I don't want to miss out on a center.
Okay.
And so I'm kind of pressing do I go Bo here? Do I press my luck and try to wait till 99 and go Jared Wilson, who you passed on? And I think that might be the way I go here and wait on a second tackle, pass on edge. Did we miss on some? Oh, see, Jared Ivey went the pick before, and that would have been slam dunk pick for me right there. And I would have drafted Jared Ivey. Josiah Stewart went, Kennard went. So a little run on edge guys that even one-dimensional guys that I would have liked to take in that spot, unfortunately. So for me, I think I have no choice.
No choice.
Well, I mean, Bassa at linebacker could go with.
Like Bassa.
I have no choice, in my opinion. Winston's an interesting one, Penn State safety, but I have no choice. I'm going to go with Jason's kid, Mason Taylor, and swing for the upside at tight end. You didn't see that.
They both went tight end in the third round.
Yeah, let me go a different way. Let's make it look.
We talked defensive tackles, but tight end's probably the next deepest position in this draft. And yeah, Mason Taylor would be tight end 1 or 2, probably every other year in the NFL draft at his position, but not this year.
All right. So the way this Darian Porter went, Morrison's got some injury concerns I wouldn't be super interested in, but Ursary was there. This is a situation where I actually don't love pick 75. I love all of these guys at 99. I would be like, okay, let's send one of those fourth rounders to move up from 75 in round 3. That would be the way it looks like to play this one, just with the way.
If you traded up, okay, let's say you traded up to pick 60. Let's just throw out a number. Look at who went. Who would you have taken if you did jump up from 75 to 60, or where you throw out any arbitrary number?
I think I might just pair the Ole Miss teammates and go Jared Ivey no matter what. He went pick 74.
One spot ahead of us.
Yeah.
So you roll the dice and cost
Omar Norman Lott, Sacramento's own, Tennessee interior rusher. Wouldn't go him and pair him with Walter Nolan, but if you didn't have a penetrating defensive lineman, I would go Omar Norman Lott there in round 3. Probably wouldn't take him in round 2 just because he's so undersized and a little bit more one-dimensional. I love JTT from Ohio State. I think I like him a little more than Jack Sawyer, even though Sawyer's a little more of a try-hard guy. I'm looking at some of the corners that are here, just banking on the athleticism of Darian Porter. Ursary would be, I don't love him, but man, in round 3, he'd be phenomenal. Kennard can get after the quarterback. There's a lot of players I'd be interested here that went just ahead, but probably Ivy would be my favorite.
I like it. And if you want that slasher of defensive tackle, you miss out on Lott. Aeneas Peebles is just, he's the, I hate using the term like poor man or light or whatever, but he's that slasher with that, productivity and pressure rate and all that stuff's up there. So like that's the thing with this defensive tackle class. If there's a guy you like at the second, there's a mimicked round 4 prospect that you can get as well.
Even Jamari Caldwell, is like the mid-round version of Kenneth Grant. And there is Ezeraku from Boston College is like the second round version of Abdul Carter. I mean, I was blown away by his film. I loved watching that guy. And so, if you don't get Tet McMillan in round 1, maybe you get Jaden Higgins in round 2. Like there's a lot of those guys where it's like, man, I might wait and get the Kirkland brand version of some of these guys. I think Kyle Shanahan will love Jalen Royals, trying to replace the little Debo with that body type, with the ability to get after the catch. So I would probably take Bo here if I didn't think I could get Wilson. I'm going to press my luck, see if Wilson falls to 99, and I'm going to go with upside at tight end and draft Mason Taylor here at 75.
That's a lot of talent. You've got athletes there. Walter Nolan, athlete. Josh Allen, freak athlete. Mason Taylor, freak athlete. Like this is a Indianapolis Colts, Chris Ballard type athleticism draft so far. I do like it.
I think it's interesting that the 49ers drafted much more athletes last year than the year before. They had, I think they were 31 out of 32 in relative athletic score in the draft before. They just did not draft athletes, and it looks like not a great draft class either. And this last draft, that was 2023 draft, 2024 draft, they drafted much more athletes, older athletes, which is interesting. And almost all of them jumped on the field and looked really good right away.
Older athletes. I think that this could be the title of this podcast. If I'm gonna be
older
honest with
athletes. Yeah, don't
what I'm
mind
saying.
your age, but you gotta still be an athlete. Yeah, exactly.
Peacock fits the mold. That's all I'm saying.
So, first of all, for sure, I'm an athlete, and yes, I for sure am getting older. We were talking about I think Sam Monson brought it up. Is like, which prospect has the closest, height, weight, speed to you? And Tet McMillan, 6041. That's what I am. I'm 6041, 6'4" and an eighth. Pretty tall. Some people don't realize it looking at me on the podcast. They don't really ever see me standing up.
I remember when I first met you in person. I was like, "Hey, you just you been down a little bit, buddy."
and I used to be skinny guy. Now I'm skinny fat. I got a dad bod thing going on. 225 is what I claim. I'm afraid to step on a scale right now. I need to get in the gym and work out to try to get down to Tet McMillan's 219, but 6041, 219. He didn't run a 40. I would not try to run a 40 either. I'd probably have to convert to tight end, but that was my doppelganger in the draft.
All right, we're at 99. You've got D tackle, offensive tackle, tight end.
Fannon's still there. I'm going Jared Wilson, the center from Georgia.
Yeah, solid draft, man.
Yeah.
All you've done is D-line, O-line, tight end to help O-line, O-line again. Yeah, this is shaping out nicely.
A lot of big athletes. Older's okay too. And you know what? Got my 3 tech. Now I got my 1 tech, CJ West. You're on your way to the San Francisco 49ers, probably the closest thing to DJ Jones in this draft. Love him in round 4, so that's an easy pick.
He wasn't there at 112 when we drafted earlier. Yeah, but he fell that time.
Because I drafted better, John.
You did. I'm liking this. I like both these drafts, but this is beautiful.
Maybe there's no wrong way to play it. Okay,
I'm sure we'll find out April 24th.
What do you think here? Back-to-back picks.
You don't have a linebacker, a corner, a safety.
Penn State. I kind of don't mind the idea of taking a quarterback here. Although I'll tell you, my favorite quarterback in the draft is Curtis Rourke out of Indiana. I know it's a basketball school, but he's got anticipation for days. Kyle Shanahan's going to like him. Tough guy too. Played this season on a torn ACL.
Yeah, he's a fun player, and they do that RPO and all that stuff, and it's all decisions, and the accuracy is there. He's interesting, and this is about where he'd go.
I think you probably even get him a little bit later, round 5, round 6. And so he's my sleeper quarterback for the 49ers. Someone that Kyle Shanahan's going to really like that they take day 3 somewhere. Let's see. I could go a lot of directions. We go quarterback. We go. Already got a tight end. Tyler Batty's more of a one-dimensional big defense end, but I wish I would have been able to get a defense end. That's the one thing. It hadn't gotten an edge yet, and I don't know if I even love any of the edges that are here. It's hard for me to. I know there's a lot of utility to big defensive ends, and you got to stop the run in the NFL before you can get to third down. But it's hard for me to draft the one-dimensional run stoppers. I'm always going to lean toward give me that guy who flies off the edge and can rush the passer. Josh Joyner had a pretty great combine, but none of these names are really blowing me away here at defensive end. I think I missed my shot there. That's a trade up from 75. You got to go round 2. I think you got to go 43. You got to have a defensive end by pick 75. Put it that way.
It just doesn't translate late. So in this, we're signing Harold Landry, who just got cut in the offseason. That's why this fell the way that it did.
That's the plan. I like that a lot. Who do you like here?
Yeah, I mean, this is where kind of like wide receiver or running back kind of screams. I think the strength of the draft. Pat Bryant, your guy's there.
I would wait another round. Pat Bryant, I like him round 5, round 6. Again, he didn't run fast. I don't think he's going to go high, even though I love the tape. He's a player I like a lot. How about Billy Bowman, actually, at safety?
He fits the metrics. Speed, athlete, try hard, love all that stuff. Dude misses tackles way too much. So, that is a problem with the tape. But, man, hair on fire. If you want that kind of Talanoa effect that you missed, he fits that mold, and he's way faster than anybody we got. He needs to get some polish to his game, though, for sure.
Kyle Williams. I'm going to go to Kyle Williams' combine real quick. 5'10" and 5'8", 190. Ran 4.4 flat, 36 and a half inch vertical. I mean, he flies on tape. I could be talked into him. I know you said you like Kobe Hudson, right? 6 feet, just under 6'1", 193. He didn't run at the combine, 35-inch vertical. I always get a little skeptical of the guys that didn't run at the combine. You're basically telling us you're slow.
Yeah, I mean 6'1", 193. He's not built like, a small speed guy. But yeah, I do like him. He's played a ridiculous amount of football, versatility. Top end speed's a concern on tape. Experience, versatility, and routes. Produces, can play everywhere. Very savvy. I love the way he runs his routes. Like, he reads zone coverage very, very well. But UCF is weird because it's that all go, go slant, hitch, post.
That's the frustrating thing. You watch some of these colleges and some of these schemes. You're like, how do you even evaluate this? Because this is a different sport than what the NFL is playing. So how do you even evaluate some of these guys?
Yeah, it's tough, man. That Braille system just screwed up evaluations forever.
So I tell you what, I think Upton Stout, more of a nickel guy, I like a little bit. But if you kind of talking me out of
I didn't mean to do that.
Billy Bowman, which is okay. Kobe King, backer from Penn State.
There we go. We talked back-to-back Kobe players, which is a sign of the times.
Yeah.
Kobe King didn't do anything at the combine. He's working through some injury issues, but we'll see that. Run stuffing, leadership, and frame. I mean, he's built right. He's a big dude. He's that hybrid safety that is now a linebacker in today's NFL. Like, does he get smaller and play safety? Does he bulk up? The 6'1's a little bit tight, but yeah, he's a damn good player.
You just explained the San Francisco 49ers linebacker right there. So thank you for solidifying that for me. Kobe King is the pick at 138. And how about this? I'm going to go quarterback, Riley Leonard, to finish it up.
There you go.
Niners got to take a backup quarterback. And there's a lot of them to choose from in this draft. Somewhere, probably day 3, that late 4th round area, you got the back-to-back picks, got some extra picks to play with. You just got a 5th round pick as well. Whether it's Riley Leonard, whether, Tyler Shuck's not going to get there. He's like he's skyrocketing right now with his stock. He might be a 1st round pick by the time we get there because people are falling in love with him and his abilities. D+, come on. What are we talking about? D+. Don't give me that crap, PFF.
Yeah, they didn't like it.
On the horn. So there's my haul. It is Walter Nolan, Josh Connerly, Mason Taylor, Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia, CJ West going the bigger body defensive tackle out of Indiana, Kobe King, Penn State linebacker, Riley Leonard, quarterback. And good. Like, it's like pick your poison at quarterback. Which quarterback do you like? I think there's going to be a player the 49ers can draft at some point there on day 3. And I think they need to continue to develop quarterback talent. I think it's good for your organization. And you need to be cheap. You need to be cheap if you're going to pay your quarterback $50+ million a year, right? So develop a cheap long-term backup quarterback. So you don't have to pay.
I like Riley. I like him. And I think that, late 4th, one of those compensation picks I'm cool with. And that was your highest grade. They gave you an A- there.
Yeah. I got an A+ for Connerly, but that's just because he fell a little bit. So, but there you go. And then let me pull up your.
I sent it to you DMs on Twitter.
We got to compare these, and you guys let us know. Let us know in the comments on YouTube. Let us know in the chat here. What do you like better, going offensive line in the 1st round or defensive line in the 1st round? I could be talked into both of these. I got to be honest. I think I like yours a little bit. You know what? I take that back. I think I like.
You got more old linemen. That's my favorite thing about your draft. Yeah, like that extra center, that Jared Wilson pick for Makuba. That's a hard one. That's a hard one.
Let me share the other tab here. Where are we? Let's share this tab now. So this was the first. This is version number 1, starting with the tackle Kelvin Banks. You got Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. I like that you got an edge. I didn't get an edge in mine. Either or. I could be talked into either one of the tight ends, but I like the idea of taking a tight end, an athletic tight end to pair with, not to replace necessarily, and who knows, a few years down the road, maybe replace George Kittle, but Kittle's a lifer Niner for me. Like, I don't care what he costs. the top tight ends are the best value in the NFL right now. So extend George Kittle and put him on the 10-year wall, right? Harold Fannin or Mason Taylor, big athletic tight end to play with him for now. You went safety Andrew Makuba out of Texas, Jamari Caldwell, love the pick out of Oregon, and then Simeon Barrow doubling up on 4th round defensive tackles. And then you had the
had Quincy Riley, but he wasn't in the corner. Quincy Riley. I'm not mad at that draft.
Oh man, I think I like the second one just a little bit better, but the key was that Connerly fell to round 2, and I don't think it's likely that you're going to be able to sit there at 43 without trading back up and getting someone who's as clean of a potential, starting caliber, height, weight, speed athlete at tackle like Josh Connerly. Although I thought the same thing about Suamataia, and man,
I was going to bring him up.
His negatives
and he went at the end.
His negatives last year really showed up as a rookie for the Chiefs.
And I think they're going to kick him inside now at guard. Yeah. He kind of failed outside. But again, where did he go in the draft? He went at the end of the first round. Will Josh Connerly be there at pick 43 as opposed to pick 31 or 32?
Right.
I think that's likely where offensive tackles, quarterbacks, and edge rushers always get pushed up every year. Every year.
There we go. Let us know what you think. Tackle first, defensive line first. Always fun, John.
I wish we would have not drafted so well on one of them because I go back and forth. Whatever one I'm looking at, I like more.
I like them both.
Yeah. As long as we go O-line trenches, we'll be happy. But whatever we drafted, a corner or whatever else, that's where it's going to be.
Kind of it for me. So this is the way I would probably put it most succinctly: is that if you can get a starting tackle after round 1, I'm going to like that draft better. Because I would want the difference-making defensive lineman first in a perfect world if you can do that. So if you tell me that Charles Grant from William and Mary is a future starting offensive tackle, you can get him in round 3, awesome. Let's go. Let's go defensive line. Let's go tackle, then defensive end in round 1 and 2. But it's hard to find starting offensive tackles outside of round 1. And pick 11 is probably your only shot. It's been the first shot for the 49ers in 5 years to get an offensive tackle if that's where you have to get one, right?
It's a weird spot because it's just so scarce. And even the guys like, we took Kelvin Banks in the first one. Is he a tried and true left tackle? Nobody knows. Will Campbell with the short arms, I don't know. Even Membu, who everybody is the consensus number 1, he's only played right tackle. So like, it's a little rough. It's a little rough. And so fun exercise for sure. And always a pleasure, Brian. This is awesome. We're going to do this again, hopefully next week or the following. We'll figure it out.
You know why? You know why mine is better now that I look at it?
Center?
Got 6 starters.
Oh, all of them. Everybody started.
Starting offensive tackle in round 2, starting defensive tackle in round 1 and 4, starting future linebacker in round 4 with Kobe King, starting center in Jared Wilson, future starting tight end after George Kittle retires, and Mason Taylor.
So based on what the 49ers need now on their roster, okay, so let's do the same thing. Kelvin Banks Jr., starter. Landon Jackson, starter. Not this year, though, probably. Well, if you cut Leonard Floyd, starter. Harold Fannin Jr., Andrew Makuba, starter. Jamari Caldwell, starter. That's 5. I don't think it's 6. I think you're right.
Could Fannin become a sort of fullback hybrid, second tight end, post Kyle Juszczyk era starter?
I think so.
Even with George Kittle.
I think so, but you're right. More starters on yours for sure, unless you consider Quincy Riley a starter, which I would not. I don't think that he would be a starter right off the bat. Maybe you'll work into that, but
a little more meat and potatoes with yours, though, with the the no doubt run defending defensive end in Landon Jackson, much more clean offensive tackle prospect in Kelvin Banks early. Better run defending defensive tackle potentially. CJ West is a good run defending defensive tackle though too.
He can
actually, I think that's the underrated part of even though he's not the biggest defense. One more quick thing, and I know we got to go, and we weren't planning on going this long. John, appreciate you hanging out with me today. This is
fun. Man.
Mason Graham showed up the same height and weight as Walter Nolan at the combine, and then didn't run. But again, I love it because that's the reason he's going to fall to 11 to the 49ers.
I don't know how he falls that far in this draft. I sure as hell hope he does.
Yeah.
It was like everybody gets smaller, but they get smaller to run. And so he got smaller and didn't run. And so he doesn't win with straight up power. He doesn't win with weight. He wins with balance and technique and just diagnosing. Whereas you have your compact, twitchy Walter Nolan. They win. They might be the same height, weight, but like you put them next to each other and it's just like, nah, bro. Like y'all are not the same person. You're not the same. They don't win the same way. I would say the consistency definitely falls on Mason Graham. But yeah, it's frustrating. I really hope Mason Graham does fall. I do. I did think that it was a negative where he showed up. He was never going to be a combine. If you see him every single time standing next to Kenneth Grant, and you're like, oh, that's the guy. Kenneth Grant is the guy, right? And then you watch the tape and you're like, oh, no, it's 55.
Did he lose weight to run fast and then had like a heel injury so he couldn't run? Or was he just not that big all along? Because it's hard to tell because Kenneth Grant's so big, he looks smaller than him. But, 320, he probably wasn't ever 320 like he was listed.
He said that last year, 2023, was 325, played this year at 320, and then he slimmed down. His play weight, he wants to play at 315 is what I think his agent or in an interview I was watching. I don't remember who it is. Can't give credit, but 315 is about where he's going to be at.
He better work out really well if he's going to show up at
He's not going to. He's not going to. That's not what he is.
And if that's the case, he should have kept the 20 pounds on.
I agree with you.
More questions.
I agree with you.
John, always a pleasure. So fun. Let everybody know that's not watching your channel already, even though a lot of folks already are tuned into your channel because we are simulcasting on 49ers Rush and on the OT with BP channel. Let everybody know where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, it's 49ers Rush, wherever you watch, listen, download, whatever. We go live every single day. And if you follow me on Twitter, where I'm probably most active and most annoying, at JL_Chapman. And then, social media, we're everywhere. 49ers Rush, it's what it is. And Brian, this is always fun. We got to do it again. Yeah, man, appreciate you. All you do for the community and for the fans, and freaking awesome, man. Good dude.
We're going to do it regular here with John Chapman, and we're going to do Home and Home. I'll be on his channel next time. It'll still be streaming on Overtime with Brian Peacock. OT with BP, just a little extra channel beyond the stuff I do on Locked On 49ers with me and Eric Crocker. You should definitely subscribe there. Peacock and Williamson NFL show as well, talking about the entire NFL every single day with my co-host Matt Williamson. So make sure you subscribe to all of those things. 49ers Rush. Got you covered. Niners are the best covered team in the NFL. Not even close.
I can listen to 3 Brian Peacock episodes a day, and it's not enough. It's not enough. I'm just saying.
Some would argue it's too much. People that are inside the house that I'm going to go out with now.
Appreciate you. Fun. Thank you.
Talk to you next time, guys.